It's Mark and Pete.
Hello and welcome to the show. More colourful conversations with Mark and Pete. This is the show dedicated to religion, politics and business. Each week, clergyman Pete and businessman Mark debate an important topic. We may not always agree, but nevertheless, we will come to a conclusion. And hopefully, listeners, you will agree with our standpoint. This week, we debate Jackpot. We've won the lotto. Well, in the United Kingdom, a national lottery payout of £66 million has now hit the heights of a massive win. Well, is this a good thing? Well, some people think it is. Well, certainly the two winners, they each got £33 million. I wonder how they're spending that money. Well, with me today is clergyman Pete. Now, Pete, I see a very large champagne bottle there. Is that an indication that possibly you've had a bit of success?
Now then, businessman Mark, you know that that's always my beverage of choice for these podcast episodes.
Right.
So there's no difference. It hasn't changed my life at all. It's an interesting topic, isn't it? Talking about the lottery and talking about what seems to be quite a happy subject, but I think it masks a great, I was going to say evil, I guess certainly a great delusion, and that is that there is no more money being made here. Nothing has been produced. What's happened is many people have paid in money in the hopes of winning, whereas really the odds against winning are so high they could have been sure that they wouldn't win. And the person who did win, it's great, but it was so very, very unlikely. They took the great risk, and now they have won the money given, or rather taken, from all the other participants, not under false pretenses in that the odds are well known. But if don't really understand or pay attention to the odds, you have been misled, duped, and effectively had your money stolen and given to these winners. So, they seem like they've just won money. I think that effectively they've stolen it.
Well, that's quite a bold statement that you come out with there. I mean, I'm going to take a different standpoint because I think that, when you look at the lotto, just for awareness, this is something that's been going since the early 90s in the United Kingdom. In fact, 1994 was the first national lotto that we had in the United Kingdom. And of course, the payout that happened recently was £66 million, as we mentioned. And although two people actually won that, two groups, two winners, they obviously would disagree with you quite significantly. And yet I think also possibly a lot of the participants who did not win. And the reason for that is, I guess, that they would say, well, that's just the luck of the draw. It could have been me. And in fact, a lot of people will say this phrase, which is often commonly used, is you've got to be in it to win it. Well, look, let me just sort of set up a scene here with a little poem, which I do each week. And this is called Don't Count Your Chickens. Hurrah! I'm going to get blotto. I've gone and won the national lotto. All my numbers accurately matched. My new life plans have now just hatched. Millions upon millions will fill my pockets. Champagne will shoot like sparkling rockets. I'll be famous and one of the wealthy, consuming luxury until it's unhealthy. All I need to do is make a claim and then celebrate this gambling game. Now, I think I had all the paperwork. I'm starting to feel like a real jerk. Ah, gee whizzard, Jiminy Cricket, I forgot to buy the blessed ticket. Oh, shattered dreams and ejected jackpot. I'll just roll over as a prize crackpot. Bah! Well, actually, that might seem amusing, and the idea that possibly you thought you would have won with your regular numbers, but ironically, this did actually happen. Now, let me explain. So we've explained that there's been a huge payout in the United Kingdom recently. Well, actually, there was a couple who tried to purchase their national lotto ticket online. Now, this app happened actually a couple of weeks before the big payout. What technically happened was that they purchased the ticket, and Camelot, who actually run the UK National Lotto, recognised that they tried to purchase the numbers. All recognised there was one slight technical clause, and that was that the money from their account didn't exist. And they tried to put the money in, and for some reason, the transaction didn't take place in time for when the actual draw was conducted. So, as unfortunate as that may be, they lost out on 35 million, which I guess for some, that would really weigh heavy on their minds. How would you react to a situation like that?
Well, how would I react? Well, if I put myself in that situation and I wanted to win it, I guess it'd be disappointing. But it's not something that I'm looking for. I've never bought a lottery ticket. I don't particularly want that amount of money, so I wouldn't. It's difficult for me to imagine because I've never been in that situation. I've never tried to win that huge amount. I've never been in it, so I can't win it.
No.
I can see that you'd be disappointed, and I know that if it's something you're hanging your hopes on, then it's going to weigh on you. Maybe you think, if only this had happened. Particularly if it's different to that case. I know in some cases people have just simply forgotten to do it that week. You know, they were going to select the right numbers that are going to be drawn at random. On their ticket, maybe they do the same numbers every week. Maybe it's their lucky number. Maybe it's based on their birth date or some other number like a score in a football match they liked or something. And they put that down every time, and the week that it wins, they don't do it, and then they're devastated.
Yes.
And
this has actually happened, hasn't it? Where people have actually
yes.
tried to purchase a ticket, haven't won, but as you say, that for some reason, like my poem suggests, they thought that they had gone ahead with the purchase, but actually they forgot that week. But people have actually been very depressed or actually even committed suicide. There have been examples where people have realised that this was a life-changing moment, and that one moment, sadly, their lives turned for the worst.
But the problem with this method of acquisition, first, twofold. One is you're trying to get the money. Acquisition of money is what I'm talking about. If you're trying to get this money, so you go into the lotto, it doesn't take a lot of thought. As we say, it could be just the same numbers every week. You don't necessarily have any plan. And in fact, I'm going to hazard a guess here. Most people don't have much of a plan of what they're going to use the money for, other than vaguely have a better life, maybe buy a yacht, whatever it is that they think that would change their life. They're going to do that, but there's no actual thought-out plan for how they're going to invest the money, how they're going to put it to use. And so when they get it, the money isn't put to good use. And so what you've done is...
So what do you mean by that, not good use? I mean, surely some people do give to charity, and quite a lot, in fact. So
well, giving to charity is fine.
Not really help people?
Well, giving to charity is fine, but here's what I'd say. I'd say if all the people who bought their lottery tickets had instead given to charity, you would have more money available, because there's a large percentage taken, a small percentage by the retailer and some by Camelot, which is the name, strangely, a strange name, but it's the name of the group that run the lotto, which is... The lotto is the national lottery, isn't it? I'm just pausing what I'm saying.
Yes.
That is the name for it. It's the same thing. Yeah. So the people who run it are called Camelot, and they, of course, pocket some of the money, and then some is given away. It actually works out being a lot of money, but you've lost a large proportion of it. So you'd be better off with no one buying any lotto tickets. It'd be better off if the whole thing didn't exist, and you gave your money to lottery. Now, sorry, just to finish, the other thing, what I meant, the other meaning behind what I was saying was it's not put to good use, is if you had a plan, for example, you're going to invest in a business, or it was some sort of charitable work, but it was investment, say, in development of youth work in a particular town. You had some sort of idea for use of it that was going to produce something good, either produce more money if you're going to put it into a profitable company, or it's going to be something that benefits society. Then that would be good. But it seems to me that people are unlikely to have that plan in place, and so
Yeah.
the money ends up getting wasted. That's why I think it's a problem. Whereas if you're giving lots of small amounts into a charity that's doing the thinking, or if you're saving up money in order to set up some sort of charitable or operation or company, you're putting the thought into it, and therefore the
Yes.
money gets used wisely because it
Well,
because
there
it
is.
comes cheaply. It's not used wisely.
Well, there is another factor which a lot of businesses actually are slightly concerned about, which is the term syndicate. Now, this
Yes.
is essentially where a group of people sign up to a group and they put in numbers. And what they do is week on week, as a collective, try to win the national lotto. Now, a lot
Yes.
of companies are rather concerned about this because what can often happen is syndicates have won. But what's
Yes.
happened is through the sizable monies that they've actually earned from the lotto, they've left the business. So effectively, what it's meant is it's a huge hit to a
Mm.
business,
Mm.
and some people have actually banned the idea of having a syndicate. So it's very difficult to enforce because, of course, people can set up a syndicate in private life. They don't have to necessarily do it at work. But I would imagine if we scan the nation that there would be thousands of syndicates that actively play the national lotto. And of course, there is an even bigger one. We talk about the UK, but we've got the Euro Lotto, where the whole of Europe comes together, and that is an even bigger prize money. And we've had situations where people have won certainly payouts as much as £150 million. And of course, then we turn to the United States of America, where the lottery can actually exceed that in extraordinary amount and go into hundreds of millions of dollars. So I guess the question here is that there is that reality that people do win it.
Mm.
But there's also the consequence that it's not just about how it changes your life, is what does it do to others?
Yes.
Just to take one question here, which I would be interested to hear your opinion. What does the Bible say about gambling and particularly lottery?
Well, the Bible doesn't speak directly to it. It talks about not having usury, which is charging a percentage for lending money, or most people interpret it actually as being having a high percentage. The actual meaning seems to be really that it's any percentage, so you need a fixed fee for lending money is the biblical way. But either way, that's not talking about betting and lottery. But it does talk about giving away, in that it's important to give away. So if your motivation behind buying a lottery ticket is because they give to charity, that's a good motivation. But I believe it would be better to simply give to that charity, select the charity, and give to it. And that the lottery is effectively preying on the weak, people who don't
Yes.
understand the odds. And so what you're doing is, instead of simply giving, you're doing something for your own entertainment, for your own enrichment. Because although you're giving, you're expecting you might possibly receive. Acts chapter 20 verse 35 says, "In all things I have shown you that by working hard in this way we must help the weak. And remember the words of the Lord Jesus, how he himself said, 'It is more blessed to give than to receive.'" And so I would say, from what the Bible has to say, that really it's best, if you want to give to charity. If you want to invest separately, invest that money in something, whatever it is. Invest it, yes, in order to get a return, but invest in something worthwhile. The lotto is not anything real. It's you're collecting money to redistribute it to someone who, by chance, gets the money of lots of other people. It's not real. It's not genuine, and you not able to actually see. Right, I've given this money, and it's having exactly this effect. If you
Yes.
give money away or give things away, and if you separately invest money so you can see what is happening, your money is being used well. So do that. This is luckily the lotto isn't one of our sponsors, so I can say stop doing the lotto. Just it'd be better off if they weren't around.
Well, I'm going to take a different viewpoint because I take your religious standpoint, but I'm going to also say from a commercial point of view, small, medium, and large businesses rely heavily on it because it draws consumers in to the retail point of sale. And although I know that not necessarily the lotto in itself is necessarily a good thing, although I think there is, as you said, an entertainment factor. Most people manage the amount of money that they spend on the lotto. But from a retail point of view, it's certainly something that is essential from a commercial point of view because it does bring people in. As we saw recently with the National Lotto, it drew more people into the stores, which in turn there is the opportunity for people to upsell and buy other things. Now, that's just my take. But so listeners, we want to get your viewpoint on this. Do you think it's a good thing to have a lotto? Do you think even the payout is too big? Should it even be scaled down? Should we now sort of see that the whole essence of a lotto should be easier? Or should we actually see it that actually no, it's perfectly fine as it is? Well, I've got a little sort of dilemma myself because I've now got this dilemma of 33 million digits to get on my calculator, and I think I need to buy one. So listeners, join us again next time while I spend a few pennies here and there. And Clergyman Pete, do you think possibly you might spend a couple of pounds maybe trying to enhance your chances on the next church raffle?
No, I don't need to do that because I heard you were going to buy me a jet with that money you won.
Yes. Well, if only that were the case. Well, of course, for our US listeners, a lot of them would have been poring over the Powerball lottery. Well, as we know, the first winners of the $1.6 billion lottery were revealed. And, of course, it was a staggering amount of money to win. Well, I mean, I must say that anyone who had that amount of money would I don't know what you'd do with it.
Oh, yeah, that lottery. Yeah. No, I chose some numbers for that. I've got them. There's first one's 4. Have you got the
well, of
the
course,
actual numbers there?
Knows the numbers. There was 4. There was 8. 19. 27. 34.
34.
Well.
Yeah.
Well,
and the Powerball 10.
The Powerball was 10.
10. Yeah. That's it. I've won it.
What?
Right. I'm out of here.
What? No, Pete. No, Pete. Pete, you've got to buy a ticket first. I say, Pete, listeners, he'll never learn. Well, listeners, join us again next time for more colourful conversations with Clergyman Pete and Businessman Mark.